Gonna have to get used to this. Got my laptop here and I've got a video connected through my phone to the laptop to help Zoom create a better kind of um, video. So this is the long-awaited kind of next steps video on the 6-week Evergreen program that I did promise you all I'd bring out. One thing led to another, and here we are in the 5th of November. So I haven't done one of these in a while. We used to do a weekly Zoom on the 6-week program, and then we elevated to the 12-week program and took more of a hands-off approach. But I do think it's pertinent whether we did come in for in-body scans or we have not come in for in-body scans, which I tell everyone, look, do it regardless of whether you stuck to the program or not. Just get the in-body scan because there's value in chatting at the end of the program, regardless of whether you hit your goals or not. So I did ask us all if we had any questions for this kind of pre-recorded Zoom. Do we have any questions? Sandra had one. It's a question that I answered in the 12-week group probably 2 weeks ago, and that is around injuries. What can we do on a nutrition standpoint? I did have notes, I'll have to find them. And what can we do on a nutrition standpoint when it came to injuries? So and I know this directed from Sandra with the injuries she has, but it does depend. The person who asked me the question is plantar fasciitis, so it is a case by case kind of basis when we answer these questions. But generally, like, what can we do in our control? Well, we can make sure that we have the right amount of protein because a lot of people will tend to veer when there's an injury. They go, okay, I need to restrict my calories even more. And that is not the answer. Um, there's huge things you can do. I'm going to try and find my couple of notes, so bear with me because I do want to answer this question as best I can. And as I said, with these kind of injury questions, a lot of people will go, yeah, restrict calories. And it's just not a good approach. A couple of reasons for that, especially when we're looking to recover. If we're looking to recover from an injury, from a restriction, like the area is going to need good nutrition. So, um, as it says in the notes here, there's no magic cure. Now, from an evidence-based standpoint, there are a couple of key goal or key points, and that's what I have here. If you look up and down, it's because I'm looking at the laptop. It's not, I'm not being rude. Um, and there's a couple of things that we can look at, like nutrition strategies, key thing, play a big role in um, the recovery, the whole recovery piece. We can look at like rehab, etc. But recovery and nutrition are vital. There's a very good quote that I did write down. So think about you're trying to minimize your muscle loss and maximize the return to play or the return to exercise. So I have spoken about this before, and it's the hierarchy. It's going back to the hierarchy of nutrition. What have I said before on that? Well, there's a pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid, what's in your control when you have a stress or have an injury? Sleep, stress, bedrock. They're not nailed down. Like, this is your time to really nail down on the stuff because you don't have as much time to put into or talk. You and is a prime example, Sandra. You don't have as much time now to focus, or you don't have any time to be focusing on heavy lifting. So your nutrition plays a bigger role. So sleep and stress, calorie intake. It's, as I said, it's not restricting things mainly, but that little bit of maneuvering is not going to be really there. So you need to make sure that, and you're someone who generally, and I know you might refute the point, but you're generally someone who will not take in enough carbohydrates. This is not a case of restricting them any further. Now, if it's someone who has a high carbohydrate base and their activity levels have been diminished, well, maybe we look at changing around the demographic, or the kind of the what cons the constituents of their nutrition, meaning higher protein and fat and a little bit lower on the carbohydrate. And if we're taking in carbohydrate, maybe looking at some of that slower release carbohydrate. So really refining things down. So stuff like baby potatoes, stuff like whole grains, not just your simple carbohydrates. Again, consuming enough protein, that's really, really important. If you're not consuming enough protein, you're slowing down your recovery time, and that goes for someone who's not injured as well. Um, oh yeah, key thing during this whole process is maintaining as much lean mass as you can. As long as you're up and moving, you're already winning. But lean mass during injury is your currency for performance and health. Didn't want to get that wrong. So that's really important, especially in the affected limbs. If something's not being used as much, there's obviously a bigger restriction. Cassandra, you're not in a brace, you're not in a boot, you're not in a cast. So you're at a big advantage there because you can get to move your limbs, maybe not the way you want to with your legs, your arms, but you're still moving. Eat enough carbohydrates. That goes without saying. You still need to get your carbohydrates in. The guideline I had here is between 1 and 1.5 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight per day. Um, Carbohydrate intake is essential during periods of heavy training, but there is a lower requirement for carbohydrates during injuries. Avoid refined and starchy carbs such as processed cereals, sweets, white rice, and pasta, which you do yourself. Carbohydrates should be sourced from own processed sources, fruit, vegetables, whole grain bread, whole grain rice. Incorporate healthy fats, staying hydrated, anti-inflammatory foods. It'll be more up the scale, but stuff like turmeric and stuff like that, very important. Supplementation, still taking your creatine, still taking your omega-3s, still taking whey protein if you're taking it in. Collagen protein has been shown to help as well, but I'm not going out to sell kind of supplements, etc. So let's look at those, and I have them listed 1 to 7. Um, Good frequent meals, eat every 3 to 4 hours. Protein, so each meal and snack contains a complete protein, meaning lean meats, dairy, fish, nuts are not a complete protein. Fruit and vegetables, 1 to 2 servings of fruit and veg per snack or meal. Carbohydrates, try and focus on whole grains, minimally processed sources. Fats, so at least 2 to 3 healthy fats each day. Examples, obviously avocado, olive oil, mixed nuts, fatty fish, flax seeds, flax oil, eggs, etc. Anti-inflammatory foods, turmeric, garlic, cacao, tea, blueberries, etc. Making sure they're coming in. And supplements, your whey protein, vitamin D, omega-3 oils, and possibly a collagen. Anyway, that's just explaining that question. So it was a good question to start off this whole Zoom about. Sorry, I'm just having a drink here. Um, Now, this is what I really wanted to get to. I'll go back to my other screen so I can see myself here. There I am. The key thing now is the battle plan. So most of us who've done this program before know I run it 3 times a year. January, somewhere about the April point, just around Easter, and then September. People go, oh, I wish I had one coming up to Christmas. The whole point, as I've said before, is I don't want to hold people's hands the whole time. So what you do now is even more important of compared to what you did over the 6 weeks. The 6 weeks is just getting things under control. A lot of us got some good positive results. Some of us did not get any results where we just stalled. And that is the time not to press the panic button. And I've said this to a couple of you already. The key thing is it doesn't mean restrict your calorie intake. We need to look at all avenues. With the study I'm doing at the moment, the same guidelines come along. When I'm talking to all you guys and I ask, well, how's your food diary going along, or how's your MyFitnessPal going along? I'm taught as well to take everyone's food diary with a pinch of salt. Food amnesia is absolutely there. There's a guilt element. There's just I forgot to do it. People say, "Oh, I gained weight." Well, how accurate is your food diary? It is sometimes. It isn't so all the time. Or how accurate to MyFitnessPal? It's like we're not going to get an accurate description unless I see a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of a very like control food diary where you're like, okay, that's exactly what I've had. So we get an accurate picture of what you're actually taking in. So I'm taught to think that everyone's giving me a 70 to 80% accurate food diary, which leaves that other 20% where that other 20% could be make or break. So what I'd encourage some of you to do is like, and I'll have a look over it, do a week of a food journal, whether it's in MyFitnessPal or written down, and then we can actually look at, well, and the commitment I'd need from you is that everything's on it. And that may mean going into the day with everything planned already. So this is what you're eating, and that's what you're eating. So if you're having overnight oats for breakfast, if you're having like a salmon salad for lunch, and then you're having a pasta bake for dinner, and then you have your allotted snacks, that could be a good strategy. Then there won't be any kind of, well, I was dipping away at the biscuits or I was having a little bit of this. And we all do it. And I'm not saying it's like you're doing it on purpose, but it is known that food journals are going to be 70 to 80% accurate. So the battle plan will be varied between like the people who have got results, where you're probably looking between now and the new year for a maintenance phase, and people who haven't, I would be going down, veering down the road of I need a food journal. I'll look over for you, but like if we spent 6 weeks going, I did everything I could, but I didn't see the results. Did you do an accurate MyFitnessPal? Like one of the things that um we were learning about in college this week was people trying every single nutrition strategy and doing, and some of you guys who will watch this have told me in the past you've done your 1200 calorie a day diets. And like the problem when we go to such highs and such lows, so we might go high carb, low carb. We have such ranges that we've eliminated the kind of ability for our bodies to absorb some of those nutrients. So we're trying not to have these big waves. We're trying to have a more settled plan. It's not the highs and the highs and the lows of the lows. We're trying to bring things back down to some sort of normality. So and it's also the goal of this is not like some of us on this program, and when we're listening back, I know one or two of you will agree with this. Some of us are not even on the program for weight loss. Some of us are on the program to educate us or educate ourselves more. And I have gone down the more holistic route. It's not just a fat loss. Like I want everyone to lose 5 kilos in 5 or 6 weeks. I want people to be educated as well because in a world, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like the weight loss medication out there. But at the end of the day, the weight loss medication is not educating us on food. So we still need that education on food. What is good for our body, what is not. What's a good strategy to do if we become type 2, if we have type 2 diabetes down the line. Like it's understanding where do I get certain nutrients from? It's educating you in where are we deficient, where do we need a little bit of work? It's like in the gym when we're going along and we know we're good at the power clean, but we might be a bit deficient in that old shoulder press. So it's trying to have the whole picture and have a little bit of everything. That leads me on to possibly for some of you who are struggling on one or two of the challenges, maybe revisiting them again. Maybe give yourself, okay, this week I'm going to work on getting 7 hours of sleep this week. And just taking it, I know it's boring to do like one step at a time, but it's the biggest way you can incrementally improve your health. We can't just go all in and say, yeah, I'm going to get my 7 portions of fruit and veg this week. I'm going to do a calorie controlled diet. I'm going to get 7 hours of sleep. I'm getting 2 hour or 2 liters of water and trying to do everything where you only do each part probably 25%, where you might as well spend a couple of weeks and try and get something up to 80 or 90% and then move on to the next part. I purposely didn't say 100 because it's a recipe for disaster. Um, the other group currently are on a water challenge. And there was a study, and I'm trying to think, there was no, they're on the fruit and veg, sorry, the fruit and veg challenge. And there was a study that I did send them on, and it was just, what would you call it? It was can't remember the exact. It was basically the link between fruit and veg and all cause mortality. And again, some of these studies are very hard to like put your like nail down and say, well, this is the one because there's so many variants, there's so many variations. But the thing with this study was it was kind of like a summary of like 20 or 30 other studies. So it was kind of like an overview, a meta analysis is what I was going to say. And like some of this stuff we know already, but just to kind of pay heed to it, what it said over the course of um, like a long-term kind of study is that obviously we all know the benefits of fruit and veg, but for an all cause mortality, every piece of fruit and veg up to a kind of limiting factor of 5 pieces, each piece you add in daily decreases all cause mortality rate by 5%. Now I know you're probably like, geez, 5%, that's all. But like if you add those 5 pieces of fruit and veg, that gives you 25%. So that's a very, very big thing. I know like we're talking about baby steps here, but getting 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, huge. 25%, I'd like those odds. Like I like we can still I'm not going to be very like downbeat, but we can still step out the door tomorrow and get run over by a car. Absolutely. But stuff that's in our control, 5 portions of fruit and veg, 25% reduction in all cause mortality, I'll take those odds. I'm going straight over to get an apple after this Zoom. So that's one little thing that was said. Now that doesn't mean we stop at 5. It just means that all the studies found that there was very negligible evidence to suggest from an all-cause mortality standpoint that over 5 was beneficial. But I would argue from over 5 is beneficial. Well, obviously we're looking at satiety, so maybe getting like an extra piece of fruit in or a piece of fruit or a vegetable may help with satiety levels, increasing your micronutrient levels, so a specific vitamin or mineral. Or, as I've said as an example before, and I know some of us mightn't like eating kiwis with the skin on, but the skin on a kiwi could be the difference between you hitting your fiber target and not hitting your fiber target. So we've got the all elusive fiber target as well, which I did introduce in this current program and because of, again, more down the route of kind of disease prevention. Colon cancer is a huge one that is linked to fiber intake. So that's something that I said, look, I can't sleep on fiber. Let's put it in there. We can talk about protein to the cows go home, but we're kind of missing the forest from the trees. If we're just talking purely from protein, or we're not looking at fiber intake, which, as I've said before, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's 75% of the Irish population do not get in enough fiber on a daily basis. And that really is linked down to the kind of reliance on processed foods a lot of the time. Now, we all use them, they have their use. There is a latest study to suggest, can't like I've seen so many studies in my head is trying to recite them, but I do know there was a study of a couple of hundred people and they were given and from a weight loss standpoint, and they were given like Coca-Cola, I can't remember the proportion of it, and they were given an artificial sweetener replacement, and the artificial sweetener replacement gave elicited a bigger weight loss response than the Coca-Cola. So again, replacing sugar sweetened beverages with um, artificial sweetened beverages yielded a bigger response. Um, but that was me rabbiting on. So yeah, processed foods obviously that they're more prevalent than ever. And we're going into supermarkets to make it's a little bit harder to make good choices. But it's about opening your eyes a little bit. What did I and I put this on the other group. I'm going to grab it. I know I like disappearing off on little tangents. Opening your eyes to little things. And this is what I like. Um, Looking around, going around and going, and they're open here already. this is a specific thing. Like looking at this, and I know it mightn't look to scale, but that's a bloody huge apple. And does that apple to you not look like it? Like you look at that and you're like, I want to eat that apple. It is juicy. Well, before you even taste it, it's juicy, etc. That entices me more than going in and going, oh, geez, there's a pack of Kit Kats. But like when there's good quality fruit and veg put out on show, and what also enticed me outside of the price, a very rare occurrence. It has the word Irish. So these are Irish, grown in Dublin. Very rare these days to have Irish apples that are not cooking apples. There were 149 for four of them. So I think sometimes we get can get caught in this idea that eating unhealthy is cheaper. Yes, in a lot of cases because of offers. But if you look around, there's a little bit of shopping around. That was my local Super Value last week. And I've been eating them ever since. Much better. You can taste the difference when something's in season. So the problem I think these days is we expect to get everything all the time, and it just doesn't really happen when it comes to fruit and veg. A lot of stuff cannot be grown all the time, so we can't expect to get apples off season. And if you do, you're trading it off for obviously food miles, which is another part, less fresh food, and you're not supporting the local economy. But that's a separate thing. But when we're looking at minimally processed foods, looking around the supermarket, as I've always said, moving around the periphery of the supermarket. Like I live right beside Super Value in Castle Street, and I know the place like at the back of my thumb. What do you think is around the periphery of that supermarket? I walk in, I know it's bread, but there is bread there that's minimally processed. Think sourdough. Even the slimline bagels, not too bad. So you go around there, you go into the fruit and veg section. So you're not bombarded with crap. Keep going around the periphery. You got your meat counter. You've got more meat. Deli, I wouldn't really go near. Go around. You've got your cheese, your milk, your yogurts, and then the off license. But if you go around that periphery, it's more fresh food. It's when you get stuck in the center aisles and you get stuck around kind of seasonal aisles, which are depending on the store. Like if you go into a Tesco, you're going straight into seasonal, but it depends on the store. But I just know from that Super Value, I know my way around there. One thing I'll always suggest to people who are struggling doing their supermarket shop is doing online shopping. I know some things are outside your control. If I picked apples, I might have got these in my online shop. But when it comes to online shopping, and if you find it difficult to stop kind of being impulsive in the supermarket, it kind of stops the impulse in a lot of cases. I just know myself. If I go online and I have a shopping list, I'll stick to the shopping list. Or one of the best things online, which you do not get in going to the shop, is past purchases. You can skip all the promotions and stuff like that. All I do is click past purchases, go through my past purchases list, buy now, buy now, buy now, order. It avoids all the searching around. It's only suggestions. I know other people like the going in, checking the freshness, going around the shop. That's fine. But if we're going into the shop on an empty stomach, what happens? We start picking up the stuff that mightn't be helpful to our health. Have to check the time here. So we're 25 minutes in. Hopefully some of you watch this. And it's probably just me kind of going on, kind of getting, I'm trying to rack my brain on a couple of ideas. So we're coming up to the kind of season when things can get unpredictable. But in a lot of cases, we know when we're going out. So it's coming up to Christmas party season. And I was about to grab my phone, but it's right here. But if I go on my phone, I'll have stuff built into my calendar. And if we work off a calendar, then we can work around party season or going out, etc. Things get a little bit more skewed than your regular year, but we work around party season. That links into Christmas. So what a lot of people will say, well, what will I do at Christmas? Just don't make it a festival. Have your Christmas Eve, your Christmas Day, your Stephen's Day, back to the gym on the 27th, or back to wholesome eating on the 27th, and maybe enjoy your New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, where it doesn't become, okay, gonna switch everything off on the 21st and you won't see me till the 7th of January. Well, that's only going to elicit a fat gain response. And if you want that, that's absolutely fine. But it's just a couple of days. If we keep it to a couple of days and enjoy it, whatever way you want, enjoy it to the max, but don't switch off. If your goal is health and longevity, and if some of us, it's fat loss, well, enjoy your couple of days, but just go back on it. Or just if you know that the 24th to the 2nd is just going to be like endless food, well, get a little bit of activity in, go in, get out for a walk, go for a run, get to FSM, to counteract the excess eating. Um, and just move. Movement is like magical. So if we can keep some movement in, that will offset some of the excess calories. Again, alcohol, that's a real individual choice. I personally myself now, I'm getting less and less. Um, I wouldn't even say it though. I'm never reliant on alcohol, but less and less. The benefits really are less and less. For me, I treat alcohol like I treat coffee, dark chocolate. I will minimize it and look for quality. So at Christmas, I'll get one or two very good Wicklow Wolves and I'll enjoy them and that'll be it. And it's just I look for quality as opposed to quantity. Um, and just know that yes, it's 5 or 10%, but when it gets skewed and it becomes a weekly or a couple of times a week, then it really is you're really offsetting, or the trade-off is really like think about like a balancing act. So like maybe one or two beers a week, yeah, we're balancing things. But when we start going like bottle of wine a week, the trade-off's too great when it comes to health, longevity, fitness, sleep. Um, I don't really want to say insulin, but there's so many things. Like there's so many. That only side I'd really put into the alcohol piece, pros and cons, social connection, but then that's even, you can still have social connection without alcohol or alcohol free, as some of you know that we went out. Now, I did have a bit of alcohol, but alcohol free. Guinness 00, 92 calories, tastes the exact same. You don't get the kind of buzz off it, but you don't get all the downsides of sleep being affected, excess calories, poor food choices after the alcohol, and the hangover the next day, which leads on to everything else. So I'm not saying become a pioneer, but just remember that I would always put alcohol, like other areas, it's a trade-off. The more you go into the higher units, that trade-off really, like think about a bottle of wine. Might be putting that like a huge trade-off. And really kind of value, like if we become very reliant on something like that, it really does skew things off. And I hope like, and it's not, it it has value in certain instances, but the value, and I as I get older, I just find it's less and less, and I really don't see much value in alcohol as a thing in general. So that's all I'm going to talk about alcohol. Um, Anything else? So again, we'll have a new course coming up on, if I have the exact date, sorry, I'm not looking at the camera here. So we probably be looking at the 5th of January, which is the first Monday of next year. We'll look at a kind of different arrangements as well, making a couple of changes like this time. And it was only a small thing, putting in fiber and trying to bring in some of the knowledge I'm getting from my current college course, which inevitably will, like in January, I'll be going across to England and we'll be talking. There's a body composite, it's called the body composition residential. Sorry. And what that basically means is I go across to a conference center, we stay for the weekend, and we get shown how to be run through like a body composition client, and we'll get to actually, because I haven't done this since college, which is probably about 12 years now, and actually using the skin fold calipers. We have skin fold calipers at FSM. I've never used them because I don't want, it's like me measuring you and not knowing the precise sites where we're supposed to take the measurements. So I want to have that education before I start giving people caliper measurements. But that would probably be something that I would probably take into the practice in probably January. I know it's not going to be for everyone's taste, but when we have in-body scans and let's say someone on the group, their muscle mass lost, like they lost 1.5 kilos in 6 weeks, and everyone's been on that because there's been anomalies, especially most of us watching this are female. So the water retention piece in the in-body scan is the big limiting factor. So if we have the in-body scan for all the stats, but we have the um, calipers for the accuracy, then we have the best of both worlds. So that'll definitely be something that'll be coming in. And keep going with, I keep looking over here. That's because my ring binder's over there and my book, another book due soon. But all that is trying to add to the new nutrition 6 week program and the 12 week program, which will be there in January as well, which is a bit more of an intensive course. But again, it's more education, etc. And you get one of these videos every single week, as well as a coaching call and this big journal in front of me. And I'm not promoting it here. It's not for everyone. It's definitely for people who are really interested and want to learn more. And I'm constantly playing with things on that as well because I don't want the courses all to be the same because like a lot of you guys who are on this, if you're just like, oh, we're just doing the same thing over and over, it gets boring as well. So I have to change things up and trying to make things better each time. Like in the original courses, I would have just spoken about individual food choice the whole time. And then when we look at things deep down, and I know some of you have been through this, it's not just down to individual food choices. It's how's your sleep doing? How's your water doing? How's your stress doing? Is there stress in work? Can we introduce and including exercise in the whole piece? It's an holistic piece. I think it's in my book here somewhere. If I get it, it would have been linked in. There's my college work so far. But it would have been in the precision nutrition course I would have done originally when we spoke. It's having kind of like not a hierarchy, but how like health and nutrition. So it's looking at everyone as a whole. I just want to get I don't want to misquote it. So it's what is health? I'm just trying to find. It's just looking at things as a kind of full approach. And I love this kind of approach to things because if we just say, because a lot of people will ask, like on the red, amber, green system, is peanut butter red, amber, green? And yeah, it's good to have direction, but like it's trying to look at things mere like away from just merely an individual food choice because the individual food choice, yes, can be important, but it's not going to be the bedrock of everything. And I think I've lost this page. It's just bear with me. Sorry about this. Aha. So I don't know if you can see this. Probably not. See this little pie chart here. Now you definitely can't see the writing. Can we see it? Yeah. Okay. So basically what that means is the facets of health. So you've got social, physical, psychological, intellectual, economic, and emotional. So it's just knowing different areas. So when we talk about physical, can we improve many facets of this? So the whole point of me here from a physical point of view, when we talk about nutrition is like I do no harm. Okay, psychological, there's loads of different like decision making, empowering you to make better decisions, aim to reduce kind of obsessive tendencies, so like alcohol or like Diet Coke or snacking on particular like the same product over and over. And social health, so like taking your lifestyles into account. So some of you guys might be um like just like to go out every weekend, but we have again it's trade-offs with that sort of stuff. Um, like goal setting and like recommendations that we don't have to exclude social life, but making smarter choices when we do have a social life. And emotional health. So again, like we all have like different like regardless of whether we know it or not, we all have different relationships with food, different histories with food. Some of us have been down all sorts of kind of nutritional paths, fad diets, etc. So some of us still are like, I don't like to say the word broken, but like think about something like carbohydrates. Some of us have like still from past experiences with coaches, etc., who demonize food groups, then like we don't want to eat carbohydrates because we think they're just going to instantly gain fat. And it's quite a sad thing to say, but the whole goal of a lot of these courses as well is to increase your relationship with food. What can we add into your nutrition and not take away? Because generally, when we talk about nutrition courses, nutritional programs, it's take, 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 but where's the give? And we need to give things to our body as opposed to just taking everything away. Um, Economical health, so maybe not here, but the benefit of high quality food versus economic cost. Not really important to you, but it is a facet that we all have to consider. And intellectual health. So, like obviously, our like what we know in the nutrition space, are we empowered to make our own decisions, or are we kind of find it very difficult to make our own decisions? But it's just that is a very good part to really see where I'm thinking when it comes to each individual person. I'm not just thinking as someone as a fat loss client. I'm thinking, well, where's their emotional health at? Where's their intellectual health, or economic health, or physical health, etc. And it's really looking at everyone as a whole, as opposed to, and I know it might sound a little bit of hippy dippy, but it's to show that it's a holistic approach to nutrition. And it probably this has changed over the last couple of years for me, where it would have just been I see someone as 1600 calories a day. It's not really taking the person into account. Okay, so now I'm going off on a tangent. I know we're almost finished up here in the 40 minutes. And please, please, please look at this. It'll take 40 minutes of your day. You can put me on, I don't know whether on YouTube you can increase my speed, but you can increase my speed if you want, to get through it quicker. Any feedback, let me know. And any questions, let me know. And one thing for all of you to do, every one of you, put an alarm on your phone and book in for an in-body scan for January. I've said this to everyone. It's there every 4 to 6 weeks. Gives you a roadmap. Are you going in the right direction? Are you hitting maintenance? Are you going in the wrong direction? But those corrections can be easier corrected if you're doing them, if you're doing the embody in a more frequent manner as opposed to hop on it after Christmas. Sure, you could be 3 kilos up by then, or you could be losing weight when you want to maintain your weight. So like, it gives you that course correction. And it's just good to check in every now and again. As I said before, when you have an in-body scan, do I have, oh, perfect, I have one here. That was very well timed. When you have if an in-body scan, like this one here, mine definitely won't look like this at the moment, but different parts of time. So I wasn't training very much here. I was up at 90, 91 kilos. Got back to training, got back to good eating, went down. So each one will be a point in time. And I always said to people, if you're having a rough time, right underneath, rough time. Wasn't training very well and training for a competition. So each one has its own part to tell without becoming obsessive over it either. So trying to look at it as from again from an holistic approach. So hope you enjoyed that video. I hope some of you actually watched this and I didn't waste 40 minutes of my time here. But yeah, it was a pleasure working with you all and I hope to see some of you back in January. But again, any questions, please let me know.